Well, we are just days away from the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct. We're here today with our big Switch 2 Direct predictions. This is a big one.
I honestly can't believe that we are at this point. This has been such a long time coming. It's
Yeah.
honestly something that we have been looking forward to since we started this channel and left Nintendo. Like, wow, that's going to be an
Yes.
exciting moment for us when the next system finally surfaces. And it's about to happen. We are
It's
about to get
happen.
all the information, hopefully,
Yes.
all the things we are
Hopefully.
curious about, all the questions we have answered.
Yeah. It's an exciting moment. It is such a cool thing to share with, our wonderful community. And also, it's actually just a joy to be able to do predictions at all because for so long with these kinds of Nintendo launches, we would never be able to have the chance to do that working within the company. So even just having the chance to have fun and think about predictions and get excited about what they're going to be announcing and be surprised like everybody else. That's a cool moment. And so I'm here to like relish it and very excited to hear your predictions. We've been keeping our secret predictions under wraps from each other. So I'm excited to like reveal it to you finally and hear yours too.
Yeah, we have a lot, so settle in. We've
Yes.
kind of broken things down by category so that we can structure our conversation here. We're going to start talking about just general predictions about the Direct, talk about the format a little bit before we get into our predictions for the hardware and the system software. And then we'll be talking about games and then the launch details and wrap up and just talk about what comes after this big moment next week.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Grab your hot drink, settle on in with a blankie, and let's get comfy and let's get into some predictions. So, yeah, let's start out with some of our general predictions. I think we wanted to talk a bit about like what would be the general tone of this direct? Obviously, it is a Nintendo Direct. We all know and we know very well the format of Nintendo Directs, but this is a special one. This is a big sort of a bit of a difference than your run of the mill Nintendo Directs. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what might Nintendo be doing to make this one feel special, feel exciting. So what are you thinking about this?
I think it's absolutely going to feel bigger, like a real event
Yeah.
compared to a normal Nintendo Direct or a Nintendo Direct like we just saw, where it's,
Hmm.
Mr. Takahashi on a green screen and they roll some trailers and they say goodnight. I think they're going to really try to make it feel different, feel big, feel special. So this is where you'll get kind of like the big lifestyle shots, little interstitials, kind of harkening back to the E3 digital events that were made in a different way, in a different style, that did feel big because it's like, oh my gosh, we're at E3, we're getting the digital event, and this feels special. I think they have to make this Direct stand out from all the others.
Yeah, I think the production value for this is going to be a little bit different and definitely feel bigger than a typical Nintendo Direct. I
Spend the
had
money.
They have it. So spend it on this. Exactly. It's worth it to do it. Um, I had on my thing like I'm really hoping for this because I want to see it, but I'm also wanting to put this in my predictions as well as these fun interstitials
Mm.
like Nintendo in old E3 digital events or just other big moments where they have like a video showcase. They have done a good job of doing some of these like more fun, more lighthearted interstitials. They worked with Mega 64 for some of that stuff. They did the Nintendo Muppets for some of that stuff. Maybe we'll see a return of the Muppets. Who knows? Maybe not. Only the Miyamoto Muppet is relevant now, I guess. Um, but I'm hoping for some like injection of fun and whimsy through some of these interstitials or some of these things that they're going to be doing to make this direct feel different and unique.
As much as I would love that, I feel like that's maybe a bridge too far for the current state of Nintendo. I don't know that they will go quite that far. I think they want to keep people really focused on the information at hand. But again, I think that there will be a lot of different types of visuals, a lot of different types of segments that look different than are different from what we're usually getting in a direct. So I think we can at least agree on that.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a feeling how they're going to start it off. When they did a live presentation for the Nintendo Switch in Japan, they spent a long time talking about the lineage of Nintendo and how the Switch was like the culmination of all these great ideas that they had. And also in their last investors meeting, they had this kind of felt like a victory lap talking about, oh, the Switch generation, here's all the things that we accomplished, here's all the things that we did. I think they started off with something similar to that, like a victory lap feeling. What haven't the last 8 years been incredible? Don't you love the Nintendo Switch? Aren't you so excited and passionate about what we are just about to show you? I think that works on a lot of different levels. And I think, it is on an emotional level smart to get people to remember all the incredible things and how they're going to keep building on that with the next system.
Yeah, I think they'll use that as a way to sort of set up that this is a continuation of that great success. We're just growing the success even bigger versus the idea or the feeling of like, this is the end of something and then we have to start over from zero. I think they kind of want to avoid that vibe, actually. They want to have this feel like a, continuation, getting bigger of the current state of Nintendo, of it being highly successful, of Switch being this massive hit, of them having, the biggest audience they've ever had with all of the biggest games ever. I think they want to just kind of continue with that feeling versus it being like a lot of people are saying like, where's the Switch One farewell? I'm like, I don't think they're
No.
saying farewell to
Nothing is
anything.
ending, nothing is stopping, everything is just getting bigger and better and cooler.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't think there's going to be like sort of this like goodbye Nintendo Switch 1 kind of feeling. More so like we're just rolling from, we're just growing and rolling into the next big thing. But yes, I do think they'll give us a little emotional tug with, remembering the great moments from the Switch generation. This might take the form of some kind of like lifestyle, almost like the Nintendo Switch One reveal video where it's showing people playing and experiencing the games and things like that. Very like a very human kind of opener.
Yes.
I can definitely see them doing that.
In terms of kind of the scope of what they're going to talk about, we brought this up a couple times. They have a lot to get through.
Yeah.
There's so much about this system that we don't yet know, and so much that they really need to detail for us here. And there's frankly more information that they need to talk about that they can fit into this direct. So they need to be pretty disciplined and focused about, where are we putting our attention in this direct, and what else can we kind of handle at an event through an interview bury it in a website and let people find it and talk about it themselves. So I think they're going to focus on the things that we've, categorized in this video, which is like the hardware details, everything about how that works, all the games, and all the launch details. That's the business that they really need to get across and get across clearly. There's a lot of other stuff that I think we're going to get some other way in the hours and days after.
I do think that there's going to be a bit of over communication in this direct as well. Like, I think they're very focused and careful about not wanting to confuse people. They've learned a lot of lessons, and we were there for many of those lessons and learnings about like how easy it is to lose people, and how quickly people's attention span kind of disperses, and all of a sudden you're like, they're confused, or you haven't really delivered the key information on the thing that you're trying to tell them about. So I get the sense that they're, to your point, going to keep it very focused on the important details they need to communicate. But it may feel, as we're watching this direct, like they're going to be really like over communicating some of these things. They're going to be a little bit more repetitive, kind of like drilling it into you over and over again. And so that's kind of the feeling I get, is that they're very focused on like, let's be sure not to confuse people and make sure they take away the things that we want them to take away.
I mean, let's be honest, like people can only remember like so many things if
Yeah.
they're watching it live in the moment. Like I remember the last summer Xbox event that everybody thought was so great, and it came out of it was like, oh, that was great, but what do I actually remember? It was like 3 things. And there were so many other things that kind of slipped through the cracks. That happens to us at the Game Awards all the time. Of what actually was in that? There was like 1, 2, 3 things. So again, they need to be careful about what is the most important thing that we're putting in here that people really need to remember, and they might hammer that message a couple times.
Exactly. The other thing I put in here in terms of the general structure and how they're going to be communicating these things to us is Nintendo's a very like show not tell company. So if they're going to give you the information about something, like if they're going to detail to you exactly what this Joy-Con mouse does, they will have a game, they will have a experience or something that really like shows you the functionality of it. They won't just like tell it to you.
Right.
So again, you might be getting this information in very repetitive ways where like someone will say it and then you'll see it in a game, or you'll see it on, in the hardware in some way, or you'll see an example of it as someone is doing it in real life. So you're kind of going to get a barrage of those types of messages. But they're a very showy company, so I expect to see lots of examples.
Do you have a thought on how long this might be?
Roughly 45 minutes.
Approximately?
Roughly.
I think it'll be, 45 to an hour. I think maybe closer to an hour. There's just so much to get through.
Yeah, there is.
That people want to see, that they want to show off, that you need kind of, some of it, you're going to need a bit of breathing room so you can properly see it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
At Nintendo, when we worked there, we did always hear, there was often like, oh, that Xbox event went an hour and a half. That's way too long. Why would anybody ever want to do that? So I do think they know that they have a limit of how long they can capture people's attention, and again, how much people can retain from that.
Right.
And I think an hour is kind of right about
that's
the limit.
Absolute max. I would say comfortably they would want to get this to 45 to 50 minutes is where they would be like, yes, we now have a very tight show. We've gotten the information that we want to get in here, and we feel like people will remember, hopefully, the bulk of it if we keep it right at that 45-minute mark.
Right. And again, keep a lookout for that signature Nintendo Direct pacing, which is what Nintendo really hangs its hat on, and it's really something they do better than anybody else. I do expect them to have just like nailed the pacing where there is no like lull, there is no downtime, there is no time like looking at their watch like, oh, where are we now? Like you're going to be locked in on this thing.
Totally. And I think that they have spent like months working on exactly what this pacing is. There is a whiteboard somewhere where the pieces are being Tetris, like, oh, we got to move this segment up and this one down. Like that's what they do. That's how they get the pacing to what it is and to keep your attention. Like it's an absolute science, and it's a lot of work, a lot of planning to get it there. It just doesn't like magically happen in a second. So these things are tough to produce, and they put a lot of effort into it. So, and I think this is one of their most important videos of the year. They're going to be working really hard to make sure that pacing is like rock solid. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to like, show me the best you got, because this is what it's going to be, and that's cool. That's really, really exciting.
Anything else in this category? Should we move on to hardware and system software?
That's all I got for this category, so let's move on.
All right. Why don't you go first here?
Yeah, so the hardware section, I mean, this is like the elephant in the room, obviously, but this mouse functionality, I think you think too, and they tease this a teensy bit sort of in a visual way in the reveal trailer as well. But I feel like this actually is the defining feature for Switch 2.
The new innovation,
like as motion control was to Wii, as 3D was to 3DS. Some of the examples are better than others, but
and you can see how they would even explain that in the direct. So it's like, well, first we created the D-pad and then the analog stick and then motion controls, and now it's our new thing, which is mouse controls on a Joy-Con.
Exactly. It's so in their DNA. Like they're the ones that invented these like novel ways to like play games, and their whole concept of like growing the gaming audience through all of these like different ways for you to interact with video games, to play this is like so a message in their wheelhouse that we've all heard like for 30, 40, 50 years at this point, right? And so you can see this message evolving into what it is, the positioning for this Joy-Con mouse. And yeah, I can hear them saying the words now, changing the paradigm of gaming with new control schemes you've never seen before. And I feel like this is going to be like almost like the biggest segment in this direct in terms of the hardware, where you are seeing like exactly how this thing functions. They're going to set up the ideal environment that they hope that you at home will play this in one day. And that's I'm really interested in that, because they got a lot to answer here. Like the idea of a mouse control inside of a Joy-Con is super interesting, but like, how do you do that when you're laying on a couch? We've talked about this. How do you do that when you're on an airplane, whatever? How does that fit into the rest of the Switch proposition, which is play anytime, anywhere? So there's a lot of questions for them to answer. And then, of course, we're going to be on full gimmick watch, very lasered in to make sure that this is not ice cubes in a Joy-Con, feel the ice cubes, and this is actually like...
This is the new IR camera.
Yeah, like we're going to be sniffing out the BS here, because either this is going to be like, oh my gosh, they did it again. They have really come up with a new control scheme. We're never going to play games the same ever again. Oh wow. Or it's going to be feel the ice cubes in the Joy-Con. So exciting stuff, because, and I keep saying this, like it's such a broad range of how this could play out, and I don't know where it's going to fall, but I'm here to see it. I'm like open to any possibility.
Yeah, what I literally wrote down is Joy-Con mouse functionality will blow our minds and will unlock new styles of games not previously possible on consoles.
I sure hope so.
And again, maybe this is us just wanting this to be cooler than it actually is, but it feels like that would be a way that they would look at it, and they will definitely have a number of games that show it off. I think to different degrees. I think there will be some games that really hang their hat on that. We've got some ideas on that when we get to the game section.
Yeah.
And some games where it's more of a lesser sort of secondary feature. I don't think they're going to be trying to say like, yeah, every single game this is going to be central to it, but it's just another option for developers to come up with cool ideas. And I do think there's going to be types of games like, oh, we really haven't been able to have this experience on a console before. Mm-hmm. And then, all of a sudden now they have this great big differentiator versus the kind of slowly rising shadows of all these other handhelds that are behind them.
Yeah, and they see that, they're always looking when they launch new hardware, they're looking for what is the blue ocean, as Mr. Iwata has always said, like, don't fight it out in the red ocean. Like, the red ocean is coming because there's so many other devices in the market now that are more similar to a Switch. This is very different than 8 years ago when Switch was the one of its kind in the marketplace. Now you have all these other things that people could, use that function very similarly. You and I own many of these things now, and we have divided our time between playing those things and playing our Switch. So that's already happening. And if they only have, power, a larger screen, things like that to rely on to differentiate Switch 2 from Switch 1, like I know Nintendo feels like that is not enough. So they are looking for like that next like innovation to really set them apart. And I totally think that this is it. How cool it is and how amazing they've made it, that, that's up to us to find out, I guess, when we see it finally. But I want to be hopeful like you. I want my mind to be blown like badly. I really want to love this, and I really want to have this like literally change the way I play games. And like again, I'm open to this, And
I think also like maybe we've been overplaying kind of the concern over like, well, how am I going to have a Joy-Con on the side of my head doing mouse stuff? Like, I think maybe they have some new execution for it where it's like, no, it's actually a lot easier than you think, and you can do it wherever, and you don't need to worry about it. Like, that's very of them also. Like, we know people are probably going to be a little worried about this, but don't worry, we got it solved.
I really hope so. And if they can figure out a way for me to play a mouse controlled game in bed, day one, people.
Yeah.
Day one.
Let's stay on Gimmick Watch and talk about this C button, which now has been revealed in, if you downloaded Nintendo Today after the Nintendo Direct, they had an image of a Switch 2 that just had a C button. That Photoshop filter is no longer there.
No longer there.
Big old letter C. Any thoughts? Again, this is one of the great mysteries of not just the Switch 2, but also life. What is the C button?
Life. The C button is a black box of curiosity. I still now I have convinced myself. I don't know. I might have gone off the deep end at this point.
Oh no!
But I have now convinced myself that the C button is now related to the top USB port in some way. Like, is the C, does it click something where, like, if you had something up there attached, it like turns it on,
activates that
active, and it doesn't have to be a camera. Like, I joked around, I was like, C is for camera, but it could be. But like, whatever you're putting up there, like, you made a joke the other day about like, bring back We Speak, you know, put that up there.
So we do, you know, when we record our podcast, we use an audio recorder where it has some interchangeable things that you can put on the top, and they call those capsules. And that's made by a Japanese company, the device that we use. So I wonder if maybe that's like, oh, yes, it's used to interact with whatever capsule you have on the top. I just thought of that right now.
You're blowing my mind right now. Are you serious?
I'm not joking. Like, that's what they call those, because I was actually shopping for one of those recently. It's like, oh, capsule, that's an interesting name.
Oh, you're totally blowing my mind.
So that's cool. They do need to explain why they lingered over that top USB port in the January video. There has to be a reason. That's precious seconds. Everything they're communicating there, they did it for a reason.
Yeah, that's precious seconds that you've done that for some reason.
Exactly.
You're not going to do that for no reason.
Yeah, so I do like the idea of some sort of interchangeable gizmos that you can buy, whether it's, you know, a camera or a microphone or something else. A second screen, no.
Nothing is off the table.
I don't know if I'm going that far.
Nothing is off the table.
Yeah, I like that option. I've seen some people say, oh, maybe that's like, you know, some laptops have a little nubbin that you can use it as a mouse. It's like, well, if you're not using that,
about that.
I haven't seen one of those that's a square, and this is a square button, so I don't know.
And also, that button is not a nubbin. It's like recessed.
Yeah,
and not like.
What I was thinking is, like, you know, we'll learn what it is and it'll have some function, but it's maybe not going to be this life-changing thing potentially like the mouse is. So I'm kind of downplaying. I was like, how many mind-blowing innovations can this thing have? I think I'm putting my eggs in the mouse basket. And not so much in the C button basket.
I think the mouse basket is the right basket to be in. I think that this is. I really don't think the mouse is a gimmick. I really like want to believe that. I'm convincing myself in this video. No. Can you guys tell? The
crash is coming.
The crash is coming.
On the second.
But I just feel like the mouse is like truly a new, you know, control scheme, like a very like robust feature that is actually going to be something that you use every day, and you're playing games with this new novel control scheme. The C button and the USB stuff, like, I feel like that could be like a fun little surprise or a fun little extra, and just something to make just, you know, the Switch 2 a little bit more interesting. But it's not going to be the thing that you're going to be like, I'm attaching that camera every single day and using it in every single game that I'm playing. Like, you know, I don't think it's going to be like that. So I have that under like, this is a fun little surprise. Like, I can see maybe some novel, like, one-off ways of interacting with that, but it's not going to be like, you have changed the way I game, and now I use this, you know, mouse every day.
Yeah. We should talk about just the overall power of the system, and this goes back to your show don't tell point. Like, they don't really want to play up, you know, the hard details of the technical capabilities. So they're not going to say like, oh, we've got this chip and it's running this plus this. I do imagine they may mention like, oh, it runs in 4K, because that's something that a general person understands. Like, oh yeah, I have a 4K TV, or I have a PS5 that does 4K. That's kind of, everybody understands what that means, and that's a good step forward for them. And I do think that they will have stuff capable in 4K. However, again, sometimes they release like a hardware fact sheet that does get into some slightly grittier specs. So that's something that people who have access to the Nintendo press site, we might start to hear a little bit more, not everything about that. We may just have to wait until the inevitable, you know, teardown when somebody has it in their hands to know everything about it. If that hasn't already happened based on all of these
Leaks.
leaks, who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Nintendo is never the one to like, they're never like a hardware specs. Let me give you, like, they know that's not going to be the thing that sells their system to anybody. Like, they're going to have to give you lots of different, things to find interesting that's not specs and
Yeah.
power driven.
Same thing
So,
goes for Joy-Con. Like, and everybody
yeah,
wants the Hall Effect Joy-Con. They are absolutely not saying the words Hall Effect because
no,
that makes it clear that yes, we had a problem with it the other way, and B, it's just not something that the mass consumer understands.
cares
So
about
I
even.
do
Yeah.
imagine they're doing something different with the Joy-Con to give it more longevity, but we're not going to hear them call it out here.
OLED or LCD screen?
LCD.
That's what I think too.
And I think that's like one of my locks for this thing because
Lock it in.
they can
LCD.
sell that to you later. They want to be conscious of the overall cost and price of this thing that they are presenting to you as their new next generation product. So it actually works well for them strategically to be like, it's a reasonable price, but we'll see you in 2 years for the OLED model because you're definitely going to want that.
You're going to want that. Oh yeah, for sure. Why would they? Yeah, they would absolutely want to sell you something later. One SKU or two SKUs, colorways, different things. What do you think?
One SKU.
Me too.
Colors,
One color.
So the colors were really kind of downplayed on the hardware versus on the original Switch, where they're so front and center. It's kind of a secondary feature. They will definitely want to sell us different Joy-Con over time. I'm gonna go with just one.
I think so too.
Locked color scheme.
I think it's the one that we already saw in the reveal, that sort of dark gray, and it does have like the colors on the inside, the blue on one side, the red on the red orange, whatever you want to call it, on the other side. So I do think that is the one that we will get at launch.
All right, I want to talk about backwards compatibility,
but I also want to talk about are we talking about OS in this?
Sure.
Okay, well, I have a lot in backwards compatibility.
Oh, yes.
So we should talk about OS real quick.
All right, go ahead.
Themes and folders. I say themes, but no folders. As a contrarian.
Can't do that from day one. No, we know that the system software is something that always comes in hot. It's like they are working on this. They're tweaking this to the very last second, and they just need this thing to work. So themes and folders, I know, are the passion of many a Nintendo fan, but I think that's something that we get at a later time.
I was just joking, honestly.
No, you weren't. You definitely were not.
I like to joke around about it because people get mad. I feel like the OS functionality at launch will be pretty similar to Switch, honestly. I don't think we're going to get like a lot of differences. To your point, I think they just need the thing to work. You're going to get some patches day one already, and I'm sure it's just going to be like, let's just make sure this thing's functional. And it's, it turns on, it's snappy, it does what it needs to do. So,
yeah, and I think that kind of the OS system level stuff might be downplayed a bit in the Direct because, again, like
they probably don't have it done yet.
They need to focus on the games. They need to focus on the hardware. This is something that we might hear more about again, at those events when people are actually playing around with it and they can see it themselves, or, once we get a little bit closer to launch. Like I remember, like when it's a while back now, but when we were launching the Wii U, like we were talking about, like, well, when can we talk about that? When can we show that? And they were like, why would anybody even care about that?
I know. We were like, people totally care.
People care about every single detail. They're
like, we don't care that people
intensely. They're like, whatever.
All right.
Yes. I think they've come around on that, but I just don't see this as a huge priority for them. And sadly, I don't have confidence that there is like a new Street Pass or Street Pass-esque fun innovation on the system level that we're going to be using and playing. I just don't feel like they're going to have this.
Yeah, I think they got a lot to work on already. This is like a very extra kind of thing that they just probably don't have time to do.
Right.
All right, we got a lot of thoughts on backwards compatibility, especially after the mysterious appearance of the Switch 1 Nintendo Direct a few days ago. So, yeah, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this. I feel like this is going to be a huge thing that they're going to be communicating to us the details of how this thing works. In that Switch 1 Direct, we saw this virtual cartridge functionality that they added where you can now, share a virtual cart between systems and, loan it out to your friends. Obviously, that has some connection to backwards compatibility, but you've been dying to tell me your big backwards compatibility theory, so let's hear it. Let's hear
Yes.
it
Well,
now.
so far, so in our predictions for this last direct that happened, we talked about how, they were setting up some of the points that they would be talking about in their backwards compatibility section. And so far that's all played out.
Yes.
So they focused on Metroid Prime 4 as a Switch 1 game because I think they want to use it to highlight backwards compatibility here. They did also, if you read the fine print for those kind of digital game transfers, they did mention the distinction between Switch 2 exclusive games and Switch 2 edition games. You got to read the fine print to see it. They don't explain exactly what this is, but there is some distinction. And you could, I don't think it's too much to suggest that Switch 2 edition games are maybe enhanced versions of original Switch games on a Switch 2. So here's how I think they're going to approach it. I think that on their own, Switch games will run the same on a Switch 2 via the backwards compatibility. So if you just put a cartridge in and play it, it's going to look and run the same as it would on your Switch. It's going to be on a bigger screen. That's nice. But as far as like running better, looking better, like that's not going to happen, on its own. So I think they're also going to have an option where developers can choose to create a patch that will give the game better performance. So it's up to the developer to decide, do I want to go back and do the work to enable this? And I think some will, and I think some won't. And I think that's reasonable. And I think that from the Nintendo point of view, a selection of key first-party games from the original Switch will have these patches on day one, and others will come in the future. And you know what this means? This means that these patches are now the new drip feed. When are we getting that patch for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition? I don't know. They're dropping a new one every month. What's it going to be? Can you believe this?
Yeah. I had something kind of similar.
Well, let me finish.
Oh, you have a
I have one more thought on this. So
okay.
I do think they're going to want to sell you these patches.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too.
Because
I think it's NSO.
This is additional work that developers have to do to make, and I think they need to give third parties an incentive where it's
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good to have people continue to play my game, but what about the work that I have to do to make this possible? So I think these are going to be around $10 each, unless you're a Nintendo Switch Online member, and then they're included.
That's exactly what I wrote down, is that this is going to become an NSO subscription thing. If you want the upscaled version with the better performance of these Switch 1 games, you would have to be either, a subscriber to NSO, or I guess you can, I don't even know what they would do you think they would offer you like one off?
Sell them.
You can buy this for like $2, $5 or whatever.
Problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
But if you just want, it's like, don't worry about it and get them all included in your subscription. Go ahead. What tier? You might need the higher tier for that.
I think it's the highest tier.
Right. But I think they're going to use Metroid Prime 4 as the showcase for this. Like, oh my gosh, look at
and then they have the side-by-side comparison.
Look at how amazing this game looks. Here's what we're doing with this. I think that becomes the showpiece.
Yeah, like how much faster it runs. And
why they did the more straightforward trailer in the direct that just happened.
Yeah. I 100% think that there's more to backwards compatibility here than just you can play a Switch 1 game on a Switch 2. That's fine. That's great. Like, again, they have been talking about backwards compatibility. This is the only thing that they have outwardly confirmed. They know that this is a way to get people that are, still playing games on Switch 1 over to Switch 2. That is their goal. Like, yes, they're going to support Switch 1 to a certain time for a certain time, but at some point they want to move all those people over to Switch 2. And they know that this is a clear path for them to do that. And so they're going to be a bit more aggressive in terms of how they are thinking about backwards compatibility and including more than just, you can play the Switch 1 game on Switch 2. So all of the stuff around the AI upscaling chips that they have in there, around sort of, those other things that have come out around this, just points in the direction of like, this is going to be this big feature, this new thing. and a thing that they're going to sell to you. So yeah, I 100% think
And
that
a
it's
thing
going to
that
be.
I will gladly take the steps to get.
I mean, I already have an NSO subscription,
Yes,
so
I
I'm
will
gonna
gladly take
keep
it.
paying my $19 a month or whatever it is, like,
Right.
or whatever, however much it is. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people would gladly, gladly pay for this.
Yep.
So, yeah. Oh my gosh, how interesting.
Anything else on hardware?
Let's talk about games. I'm
Yeah,
done
let's
with
go to
hardware.
games.
Yeah,
Jeez.
this is be a big game showcase. It's gonna be
Yes,
some good
because
stuff.
this is
So,
where we know nothing.
right.
This is where they need to show us.
This is where the pop off moments
Right.
begin.
Right.
So for me, I kind of put the games into like launch games, day one launch games, and then games that will kind of come out later.
Launch window. Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned this up front, but I do think they're going to be they're going to be very focused on the launch. But I think their window for how far they're taking
like
the
holiday
stuff that they're showing, I could see them going into even the first quarter of next year,
2026.
Also,
yeah,
first quarter of 2026, and saying this is our launch window. If the thing is, let's say the thing's coming out in summer, that gives them 9 months.
Yeah.
Of a launch window to really outline everything that's coming.
Totally. I think that totally makes sense. But yeah, they're going to tell you the games that are going to be launching day one with the system. And so why don't we talk about those first, and then we can talk about the launch window stuff, which can be a bit more ambitious sometimes. Well, I mean, let's not bury the lead. Obviously, Mario Kart 9 will be a launch game. I think we can all pretty safe lock that in because it's the only game we've seen so far. But excited to see what they're going to tell us about Mario Kart 9. Like, lots of predictions around how they're going to make this feel big and different from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And yeah, so I'm sure they're going to have a big segment in here about like what is Mario Kart 9 and what makes it like new and unique and something that you want to play right away.
I agree. I think that is the key launch game. And I think we should point out that for the last couple Nintendo pieces of hardware, the launch lineups for first party haven't been huge.
Small.
It's been like a handful of games with one that's really like leading the way, like Breath of the Wild
was
on
the
Switch.
lead.
And then a couple other smaller things like for those different, like there's a multiplayer focused game. There's more of a like all ages kind of game. And then they let third parties kind of fill in the rest of that launch lineup.
Yeah.
So I think this is just an expectation thing where it's like, oh my God, we're getting Mario Kart, we're getting 3D Zelda, we're getting 3D Mario, we're getting a new Zelda, we're getting Star Fox, all on day one. It's like, you're probably not. So, but
I actually only have 3 first-party games in my launch lineup.
This was the only one that I even felt comfortable writing down. Is like that's definitely a launch game. So I want to know what you think. The other two are.
The other two, one is a Switch 2 game that showcases the mouse.
1, 2, 3 Switch.
3, 4 Switch.
Right.
5, 6, 7, 8 Switch. But
let's not play this.
I hope it's not. I hope it's a really cool game that showcases
something mouse forward.
Something mouse forward, like in the vein. Hopefully, it's like the mouse is so cool. The mouse is like the Wii remote, and then we get a game like Wii Sports that shows off the Wii remote, and then you are like so in on the mouse.
Pack in.
No.
Is that a pack in? Is anything packed in?
No, not pack. Are you kidding me? No, they want your money.
Pack the money into your wallet and hand it over to them when you buy the thing.
Yeah, you pack the money into their bank account. Are you kidding me? Pack the yens right in there. So yeah, but I do think there is a game that is like, this is the definitive. There's gonna be like little mini games in there, whatever, to showcase like, wow, look how cool this mouse is. Like, this is the new way you're going to play video games. How great. So I do think, again, hopefully the mouse is like really awesome. And this game is also really awesome. And it's not milking a cow with a Joy-Con, because that was gimmicky, and that lasted.
Now
that
we're
was
milking a cow with a mouse. Okay. See the vision. Furiously.
Yeah. So I do hope that it's like more along the lines of Wii Sports and Wii Remote than 1, 2 Switch and Joy-Con.
Okay, that's 2.
That's 2. The other one I had, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom Master Edition Dual Pack. Some kind of.
Well, so these are not just backwards compatibility things. This is
some kind of like
new combined in one package.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like some kind of like. I don't know, just a showcase
Sure.
piece, you know? Yes, they have like up-res, did all the things, I mean, 4K, 60 frames per second. You know, maybe there is something else in there that's really cool. I don't know if they can even do
Okay.
this,
Would
but
this have? Will this? I imagine this would have the Breath of the Wild DLC packed
yeah,
in. Would this have
yeah,
any new content at all?
maybe a little bit of DLC. Yeah, maybe some, maybe
We put 1,000 more Koroks for you to find.
good news.
We just threw them into the wind.
Good news,
Hope for the
everyone.
best.
Good news.
See, I think that's more likely to be like one of those key patches that's available on day one.
Could be a key patch.
And the 4K 60 patch for
Yeah.
either or is out on day one.
Yeah, that could be a way to do it too.
That's a get hype moment there.
That's a way to do it too. I mean, there's,
Right.
I feel like, I got a feeling that there's going to be a little Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom representation on Switch 2 day one as a little.
Yeah, there has to be something Zelda in
this. And also just a little wink nod to like, hey, we blasted into
this is where we came from. Yes.
Yeah, we were, you know, we were here 8 years ago with Switch 1 and it catapulted us into this great successful generation, and we got to celebrate that a little bit here with something special.
Totally.
But I can see it being very collector-y almost too, you know, like give me the gold disc, whatever, gold cartridge. I mean, it could be kind of neat.
All right. So
third party.
Those are your first party launch.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to hazard a guess other than something mouse first that maybe we don't know about before, like kind of a new IP.
Yeah.
Third party. I think we'll see. Oh, you want to go straight to third party? Oh, see, I have other first party things for later in the year.
Oh, okay, let's do that then. I do have later in the year stuff.
Let's cover all the Nintendo made stuff first here.
Okay, so later in the year, not day one launch.
Not launch day.
Yeah, later in 2025, maybe even into the first quarter of 2026, as you were saying, 3D Mario.
Yes.
Again, talk this to death a little bit, a lot already, but this is the Nintendo Switch 2 holiday game.
Totally.
In my opinion, I think it's going to be the next big 3D Mario. You've been talking about Mario Donkey Kong team up buddy comedy.
That was my prediction from January, so I have to stick with it. I think it's going to be Mario with Donkey Kong prominently featured alongside.
I love that.
I would love that. I think that's a fun idea.
And especially, you know, thinking about the entertainment stuff, they got the Donkey Kong World now. They got the movie that features heavily Mario and Donkey Kong teaming up. I know this is not Mario the movie, the game, or anything like that, but they got to showcase Donkey Kong, and they must be thinking like, we got some Donkey Kong, you know?
Yeah.
We got Donkey Kong coming. We can do this. So I would love to see that. But I do think it's going to be like, you know, the epic, you know, Tokyo EAD, Odyssey, 3D Mario. Totally. There's going to be multiplayer. There's going to be beautiful
one of the
new
top
worlds
moments in this entire direct.
Oh my God. This will be like tearful pop off moment. Like it's going to be incredible. Like this is going to be whatever year. I mean, this will be game of the year for 2025. Sorry, everybody else. This is game of the year. But yes, excited about that. I can't wait to see what Mr. Koizumi's been cooking over in Tokyo. But I think it's going to be magic. So yeah.
Okay.
What else you got for first party?
I wanted to go. So going back to Zelda again, I think they're going to need to have something Zelda here. It's too soon for them to be talking about the next big, full-on 3D follow-up to Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. It's just too soon. Those games take way too long. But there is something that I think it is time for us to get, which is the Ocarina of Time remake.
Okay.
We have not seen this game since the remake on the 3DS. That version is kind of no longer accessible unless you have a 3DS or that game. You can play the original version on NSO, but it's getting a little bit long in the tooth. This feels like the right type of game to have in that first, 9-month lead up to just make Zelda fans feel great, give them something to get excited for on the new system while the team is working away on the next big new thing.
Yeah, I put Zelda Remake on mine too, and I think it could be. Well, I actually put Zelda Remake / port. I think it could be the Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, stuff that's been rumored for so long. They may have just been saving it for this because they do need a Zelda something for the Zelda fans. And you're totally right. It's too soon for a new 3D Zelda game. And they're probably reinventing that 3D Zelda game anyway. We're probably not going to get another, iteration of 3D Zelda in the Breath of the Wild engine. So it's going to be like a different Zelda game. So they got a lot of work to do on that. We just had a sort of a top-down 2D Zelda game with Echo. So I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
So either it's got to be a remake or a remaster of something. There's a lot of options. Ocarina of Time, I would be so happy if that was the one. Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, A Link Between Worlds was on the list. Like, could they figure out a way to do that one? There is quite a bit of option here.
I think they want to aim as high as they can. And
they probably want to aim as high.
There were HD versions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on the Wii U.
Sure.
Let's reach back to a beloved game that really does need this treatment.
Maybe you can use the mouse somehow in Ocarina of Time.
Okay. Speaking of the mouse,
yes.
Masahiro Sakurai.
He has been tweeting.
He's been working on a new game. We know this. I think we will see what this game is.
Is it Kid Icarus?
I think this game is not Smash Brothers.
I think it's Kid Icarus.
It is a Kid Icarus Uprising remake using the mouse. It just makes too much sense.
He's been very sneaky. He's been tweeting. He's been doing some little trolling on his end. It's 100% Kid Icarus.
It just makes too much sense.
Yeah.
For the control scheme on the 3DS, it was what it was. It gave you carpal tunnel.
We've never recovered.
That game a new lease on life. That game was ahead of its time in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So much to love about that game. And who knows, it could come back with some expanded content, maybe an expanded multiplayer mode with more players and more levels. That multiplayer mode was really fun.
Really fun. We played so much of that.
Yeah, I would love to go back to that game with a better control scheme.
Yes.
And now it's I don't have to compromise, using sticks. It's not the same. You need the tactile, spinning around on this thing, and a mouse lets you do that.
A mouse lets you you don't need the crazy stand. You don't need to have a claw hand. And it's again, another game that's pretty inaccessible nowadays.
Totally. And
it's been a long time. And I honestly think he would personally campaign to do this. I think he's telling Nintendo, look, bruh, I don't want to make another Smash game right now. I want to do something else. I have an idea, with this control scheme.
Guess what? I printed 3,000 new AR cards that you can look through your capsule camera on the top. You can get them at GameStop. Good luck getting more than 2. Look, he's got all sorts of ideas for.
Maybe the old AR cards will work with the new capsule camera.
He loves those.
I have them. We can play with them still.
We have those, yes.
Oh my goodness. Pit rhymes with kit. Let's go.
Okay. 2 more things that I want to touch upon. I do think a new Nintendo IP will be revealed.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is this mysterious mouse game or something else. We saw this with ARMS. This is their chance to say, yes, we have all these great franchises, but look, we're forward thinking, we're new. We have a new thing too for you to get excited for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to go back to this other one. This is another prediction of mine from January, a bit mysterious. We will learn that a surprising partner is working on a new game featuring beloved Nintendo IP.
Ah, okay.
So it's, Team
Star
Ninja Fox game
on,
made by Team X that is not in Nintendo.
Sure.
We got a question recently about Hazelight, who did Split Fiction, working on a Nintendo exclusive co-op game that I cannot stop thinking about. I would love it if this was that, but I think there will be some. Wait, the pairing just blows your mind. Wait, they're working on that?
Hazelight makes Kirby plus Yoshi for Nintendo.
This is the kind of surprise that they want to hit us with.
I love it. I hope it happens. I love it. Now you've got you've hyped me up. I'm excited now. Okay, last thing for me on first party. I do think we get a new Fire Emblem game because they need. They do.
Here we go.
I want this. They do need games of
RPG. We need
style.
an RPG. Yes,
that's right. You gotta have. I mean, they'll have third party games that will fill out those genres, but they do need a first party game of sort of every different style that kind of hits all
Yeah.
the different
Xenoblade Chronicles
audiences.
2 was the Switch big RPG
There you go.
at the end of 2017. Yeah, we do need a big RPG experience.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly. So I do
Yeah.
think we get something from Fire Emblem because it's been a while, and I think the time is right for them to do
Yes.
like a big new Fire Emblem game. All
Third
right,
party?
third party. So
I'm going to say it right now. We will be surprised and perhaps shocked by the selection of third party games. Surprised, if not shocked. Wow.
If not.
This was my
Yeah.
lock prediction from January. So I'm riding hard for this one.
Yeah, this is gonna be great to see. I mean, they are so poised for just a massive, influx of like AAA third party titles to come on Switch 2. And I feel like this is something that third party team's been working towards for so long. So this is their moment to to showcase that.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool. But let's talk about third party games that we think will happen at launch.
So I want to do it this way. I have a list of I think this is about 15 games.
Okay.
And what I'm going to claim here is that more than half of these will be in the direct.
Okay.
So I'm going to read off the list.
Read off the list.
Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, Split Fiction, Black Myth Wukong, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Final Fantasy VII Remake and or Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Borderlands 4, Alan Wake 2, and the Resident Evil 4 Remake. At least half of those. That's like 8 games.
Yeah.
8 big games.
I believe it.
Great.
I believe it.
Maybe more.
Maybe more. Yeah. I think that they're going to be showing us some big third-party stuff. But, at launch, I do think we get some of the heavy hitters too. Some of these games are like Doom the Dark Ages, for example, comes out on like May 17th or something like that.
May 15th.
Like, May 15th. There you go. Thank you. I feel like that is like a day one on Switch 2 launch game.
Absolutely.
From a third party.
I didn't mention Microsoft for a reason, because I'm putting them in their whole category. I think this is one of the, we get a Phil Spencer video message, as a lifelong gamer, I've always admired Nintendo, and today we're proud to blah, 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 blah.
Oh, like the industry handshake?
One of those where he's like, yes, we're here. We are supporting this thing big time. And I think there is just going to be a massive number of Xbox games coming to the Switch 2. And don't forget, they've already said that Call of Duty is coming. So they're going to be like, there's a lot of different iterations of Call of Duty. There's Warzone, there's Black Ops 6 that just came out. There's the new one that's coming this year. So as far as which one that they might talk about or show first, it's a bit hard to pinpoint. But I do think there will be a Call of Duty mention here. Don't forget that. We're coming.
So Phil Spencer crawls out of the trenches and he holds up a flag and says, everyone.
He waves the white flag.
The console wars are over. I declare. Wow. Is that what's happening?
Okay.
And then we do the dippy kiss.
Well, speaking
the New
of
York
that,
City
look,
dippy kiss.
Sony had some games in this last direct that I still am trying to make sense of. So can we completely rule out that there might be more previously PlayStation exclusive games? I don't think it's God of War Horizon level game, but some like a Gravity Rush kind of something else. We can't rule that out. I'm not willing to say it in my official prediction, but cannot be ruled out now.
I predict that the console wars are over.
Cats and dogs living together. What's going on?
What a concept. What a concept. Okay. The only other game that I didn't hear on your list in terms of third party I have on my two games is Hades 2. Do you have that on your list?
I would like to talk about this, yes.
Okay, let's talk about Hades 2.
I want to talk about indies in general.
Okay, indies.
So I do think that they will have some space for indies, but it's, again, the space in this is so high priority, they're only going to be able to focus on one or two super high profile games. I do think Hades 2 will be one of them. I think it's going to be coming out of early access, and the Switch 2 version is going to be the timed console exclusive, just like they did the first time around. That was so successful for them. That worked so well. They'll do that again. I think the other one that we could potentially see is
Deltarune?
The next, whatever the next Shovel Knight game is. I think that's high profile enough that they could have that. I'm not saying Silksong, but I had it written down on my list, but I'm not saying it.
Deltarune too.
I'm not saying Silksong.
Forget Silksong. Deltarune.
Okay.
Is another one.
Okay.
And then beyond that, the only other one I had, this is not an indie game, but Infinity Nikki.
Okay. Just randomly saying Infinity Nikki's name.
Infinity Nikki.
Wonderful.
I love Infinity Nikki.
I'm glad to hear that. Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's just going to be a massive variety of games. It's going to be companies, studios that were not on Nintendo before, really heavying up on it. Games that we didn't think were technically possible. I think people are going to put in the effort to make the game run on the Switch.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is going to be a big moment for not only Nintendo,
this
but like
would be
the industry.
A big win for them, yes.
Yeah. All right. Enough
Launch
about games.
details?
Launch details.
Okay.
Launch date. I still got it as.
Let's say let's say this at the same time. Let's say the price at the same time.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
$400.
You kind of messed that up.
You didn't do it. You counted.
Well, we said the same thing, so that's good.
Okay, fine. Timing.
Date, yes.
Date?
What timing? Date, yes.
Okay. 1,
3, 2, 1.
Late June. Okay, yeah.
June. Late June.
I said late June.
Do you have a day in particular that you're interested in?
I'll look at a calendar right now, live here. Let me see.
All right, fine. June.
June 19th.
All right. Wonderful.
I don't know why I said it like that.
Yes.
But
so $400 launching in June. We both agree on that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think $400 is a great price point for them. I think it's obviously more than the Switch, but I think you're gonna feel like you're getting a lot for that. And let's be honest, like console hardware has gotten a lot more expensive. So kind of the context around $400, it's maybe not as bad as it was.
It's not great. I mean, it's still a lot of money. Still gotta save up for it.
Yeah.
And like it's still like a significant thing to spend on entertainment. But I think it's reasonable enough for people that generally have purchased Nintendo things.
We've got people spending $700 on a PS5 Pro.
You didn't let me finish. I said people that typically only buy Nintendo things, they can swallow $400 and it's okay. If you're someone that is just buying PS5 Pros and the expensive rigs for your computer or whatever, like $400 might not seem as much. Well,
it's still the cheapest. You know, unless you're going for an Xbox Series S, like it's still the cheapest thing out there.
True.
Again, all the other options are pretty pricey these days.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fine price point.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. People will be able to like understand that price point. Yeah. I think.
I do think games are going to be $70.
Yeah.
I do think again that's where you get the $10 for those patches. It's like, well, you're taking a $60 game and you're making it $70 because that's what we're pricing.
What it takes.
Switch to games at.
Yeah, that makes sense. Pre-orders.
Yeah.
You want to talk about pre-orders?
I think pre-orders go live that day.
Yes.
I do think they will do the Alarmo style.
I do too.
We have some available on My Nintendo Store. I think that outside of that, I think it's going to be an absolute mess and a disaster. And I don't know that they're going to have enough on the My Nintendo option to alleviate the disaster that it's going to be everywhere else.
What are we going to do?
We're going to go camp out at that San Francisco store. That's what we're going to do.
I don't want to get shot. Oh, Mobile Unit 1 will save me. Mobile Command Unit 1 will save me. Phil Spencer will like carry me out of the trenches.
Yes.
Okay, what is next? After this direct, what happens next?
Well, again, I think people should be on the lookout for more information like shortly after the direct and in like kind of the days to come, because they're going to be loading up more information on their website. There's going to be stuff embedded in their press kit that people are going to be digging through and finding. Those hands-on events start really soon after, so we will start to hear hands-on impressions. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Maybe they're doing like a media event where people have already played this thing.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a second wave of pretty significant information really soon after this direct happens.
Yeah, I do too. I think, we talk about this a lot as well, where Nintendo really knows the importance of like showing you something in like a direct or whatever, and then immediately making sure that people are getting a chance to like touch and play it, especially if the thing is like a new control feature and a new, control method, like with the mouse. They're going to want to have everybody test that out, try it out, try their new 3, 4, 5 switch, whatever. share their impressions after actually playing and after touching the mouse, after like, having their own experience with it. They're going to want all of that stuff to happen and to be out there, almost at the same time as when the information is coming out from the direct. So
Right.
we should be on the lookout to see all of that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then, presuming, using our assumed June launch date, that's like 3 months later.
Mhm.
So then they're in the final home stretch sprint.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could see them maybe doing like a smaller dedicated direct for like a Mario Kart where it's like, here's all the other information that you need. But again, I think that the big chunk of information that we're going to get on April 2nd will sustain us for a good long while.
Right.
And there will be other little bursts of information along the way.
Yeah.
And we're getting daily information on Nintendo today. Every single day.
They stole it from me.
Stole that from you.
They stole it from me, and they even added the exclamation
Give
mark.
it back.
I'm going to sue them. Who's suing who now? Huh? 2 years ago, I was saying today. In that way. Anyways, I do think that we get some title directs for some of those games, like you were saying, like probably Mario Kart, maybe even for like 3D Mario when we get closer to launch.
Sure.
I think that they'll have more hands-on events, maybe at like PAX East or some other locations throughout,
We're going to PAX East and kind of banking on it being there. So yes.
Fine. And we'll see some of those hands-on events continue on throughout the spring and into summer before this thing launches. They'll do their launch stuff. They'll do a big launch event at their stores. The good news is we do have the San Francisco store now too. So if they do a launch event at the San Francisco store, we could probably go and check it out, which would be kind of neat. And yeah, I think that, once this direct happens, they will be, months out from launch and things actually get a bit easier for them because they just, all the stuff is out there. Don't have to worry about it anymore. You can just kind of take a deep breath and let people play and let people come to their own conclusions. And then you're selling the thing and then that's it. So
well, there you go.
There you go.
Wow.
Wow. This is a long predictions episode.
Predictions.
That's crazy. If you guys haven't noticed, we are very excited about this and we hope you are too. We're just, again, days away from this. Let us know if you have any predictions, hopes, and dreams. What are you manifesting in your summoning circles? Put it all in the comments. We love to read your thoughts as well. And of course, we will be doing a big reaction to this direct on April 2nd. And then we have, our podcast will be coming out that week with more analysis, more discussion about what is in that April 2nd Switch 2 Direct. So we just got lots of stuff coming all week and it's going to be fun.
This is it.
Buckle up, people. Let's go. Okay, bye.
Bye.